who's to blame here? Because both sides are pointing the finger at each other.
Yeah, well, Russia is saying that the United States, as you pointed out, making a very big mistake, and NATO quite clearly saying the opposite. The fact remains, however, that in 2007, Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, made it absolutely clear that as far as he was concerned, the INF Treaty, Intermediate Range Forces Treaty, no longer served Russia's purposes, his words. And since then, Russia has been developing what NATO is absolutely convinced is a medium-range nuclear missile system called the SSC-8. To begin with, the Russians denied it even existed at all, and then admitted that it existed, but said that it was below the 500-kilometer limit. So intermediate-range missiles are from 500 kilometers to 5,500 kilometers in range. The Russians said it slipped just underneath it. But you know, U.S. intelligence and NATO intelligence has been following this closely for quite some time, and they are in no doubt that it is in violation of that INC treaty. This is, I mean, it's hard to overstate the importance of this treaty either. I mean, you go back to 1987 when it was signed by Reagan and Gorbachev. It was a time of immense tension, particularly in Europe. And the reason for that was intermediate nuclear weapons were seen to pose a particular threat because of the short time span you get from the launch of the missile to when it lands in Europe, or vice versa. You only have, you know, a few minutes. And so the fear was that somebody, you know, because of the hair trigger situation, somebody might make a mistake. And that's why this treaty was regarded in 1987 as really a huge step forward. And by 1991, 2,700 of those missiles had been scrapped. Weapons inspections are put in place. That's all going to go now. And so the fears that led to the treaty are going to be there again.
And why would Russia want more of these missiles exactly? What would their motivation be to break this treaty, if that's the case? Well,
I mean, in 2007, I said Putin decided that the treaty was no longer in Russia's security interests, that because the United States was developing anti-ballistic missiles to strike at the Russians said Russian missiles potentially coming towards Europe. The Americans said it got nothing to do with Russia. They were targeted, intended to shoot down missiles coming from anywhere, from Iran. I mean, that's the sort of theoretical background to it. But you know, Russia, I suppose, you know, it's hard to pin down what its motives are. But I think the fear now will be, though, from an international point of view, is this is going to lead to just the sort of arms race that the missile treaties are brought into place to prevent happening. Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General, says, no, that's not the case at all. But the fact remains that the United States is developing intermediate nuclear weapons. One of them could be ready by 2021. And 2021, and the fear will be that now this will spread to Asia as well, because one of the reasons the Americans were never happy in recent years with the treaty is that China was never part of it. China now has intermediate nuclear weapons of its own, so this could be a weapons race that spreads not just from Europe and to the United States, but to China and Asia as well.
Rob Parsons, thanks so much for